Ladies and gentlemen, after 2 years of radio silence, he's back once more to give you another scathing review. It's the one you've all been waiting for. Please put your hands together for TwiceBrokenLeg!
Hey, I'm back. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but hey, better late than never, right? I bet you got a few questions, like, where have I been? Why do I have a beard? Why do I sound deader inside than usual? Well, let me answer those questions with a question. Does it matter? Why did I decide to do this? So, the Mario movie. Oh boy, I thought Sonic caused a buzz, but this seems to have got the internet real stirred up. And who could blame it? Mario is perhaps one of the most recognisable video game characters there is, with his first games appearing all the way back in the 80s. For over 40 years, this quirked up Italian man and his mates have been entertaining us with their adventures. Like the time he saved Princess Peach from Bowser, or that other time he saved Princess Peach from Bowser, or that time he fucking died. Oh no, wait, that was a Newgrounds animation. Yeah, he saved Princess Peach from Bowser. Look, the story was never important, it was the rest of the game, and oh boy did Mario ever deliver on that front. Each game is just dripping with fun, colour and personality, tied together with solid platformer gameplay, scored with jolly, catchy music, marinated for 3 days, placed on a large baking tray, wrap with foil and cook on a low heat for about 4 hours. Play any Mario game and you'll see what I mean. Every part is just chocked with imagination. Why is he an Italian plumber? Why not? Why do flowers grant him the ability to throw fireballs? Who cares? Why are there balls on chains that bark like dogs? Why does he ride a dinosaur that wears boots? Why did my dad leave me? All these things don't really have an answer, but they make your imagination go wild, which just adds to the fun. With such care put into the games, it's no wonder Mario's been able to remain as popular as he is. Of course, being around so long, Mario has dipped his toes into other forms of media as well, having his own TV show in the 80s and 90s, and even a full-on live-action film adaptation in 1993. The TV series did well. The film, however... Suffice to say, storytelling has never been one of Mario's strong suits, but that's fine. Every now and then the Mario RPG series comes up with some sort of plot, but for the most part, all Mario has ever needed was Princess gets kidnapped by Heian period hentai monster, go get her back as an excuse to jump on platforms. Why fix what works? But then Hollywood got involved. Movies based on video games aren't anything new. In fact, game-film adaptations have tried and failed several times. But recently, with video games becoming more cinematic, we've entered a period of semi-decent video game film adaptations. Nintendo had already thrown their hat in the ring with Detective Pikachu, but after Sega announced plans to put longtime rival Sonic on the big screen, it was only a matter of waiting before Nintendo announced plans for a Mario movie. Mario fans were left umming and ahhing over the idea given the last attempt to make a Mario movie, but their concerns were quelled when it was announced the film would be entirely animated, only then for those concerns to come straight back when it was confirmed the studio doing the animating was Illumination.
Why?
Delays and production trouble only served as fuel to the Doubtfire until the voice cast was announced. Reception was mixed, as on the one hand they had cast Jack Black as Bowser, but on the other hand Chris Pratt as Mario.
Oh, God!
It wasn't until the first trailer was released did anyone have any faith in this being a good movie. Cut to April of 2023, and here it is, the final product. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a bit of a Mario fanboy, so I had my interests. I feared for the worst when critics opened their kitchen cupboards and started panning the film, but then the audience score kept getting higher, and so I knew I had to see it for myself to get to grips with what this film was. After watching, I certainly have some opinions, but rather than incoherently throw them at you, let's do what I've been doing for these last few months and have a breakdown. The story is, Mario and Luigi are two Brooklyn brothers trying and failing to run their own plumbing business. One night, while trying to fix a flood downtown, they come across a mysterious pipe that transports them to another world. They get split up along the way, leading to Luigi getting captured by Bowser, who plans on winning over the heart of Princess Peach, or failing that, wiping out the Mushroom Kingdom with an actual tactical nuclear strike. Mario, meanwhile, seeks the aid of Princess Peach to get his brother back, and Peach in turn seeks takes Mario's help to stop Bowser. Honestly, I'm fine with that being the plot. Having Luigi being the one in need of rescue in place of Peach works, as it not only gives Mario a reason to be invested in the plight of the Mushroom Kingdom, but also allows time for the relationship between him and Peach to develop. I also feel I should add that there isn't really much romance between Mario and Peach. Sure, they flirt a bit, but the movie doesn't crowbar in a full-on romance between two characters that have literally just met, so points there. Unfortunately, that's about as good as the writing gets. While the pacing is fine, the quiet scenes between action set pieces do little to expand on characters or the plot, only acting as a bridge to set up the next big action scene. The film also has a habit of throwing in random lines and ideas that have little bearing on the overall story. Like, in the beginning, we meet Mario's former boss who calls Mario and Luigi losers and then doesn't turn up again until the very end, doing the whole "wow, you guys are great after all" bit. Same with Mario's family. His dad gives him the whole bit about it being stupid to chase unrealistic dreams, but A, surely starting your own plumbing business isn't too far-fetched an ambition, and B, the theme of achieving your dreams never really comes up again in the story. You could have easily written out both scenes and lost nothing from the film. The comedy is about what you'd expect from Illumination at this point. It lands a few jokes, but aside from the occasional smile, I didn't find the film too funny. What shocked me was the fact there wasn't a single fart joke or similar piece of toilet humour in the entire film, which, for Illumination, is showing restraint. There's also a few quips and lines of dialogue here and there that could be removed or reworked to sound more natural. The line, "That is how you princess," comes to mind. Overall, on the writing front, I'd rank it as fine. It doesn't go out of its way to tell a deep or complex story, but to expect Oscar-worthy writing from a video game movie, never mind one made by Illumination, would be setting your expectations to 11 when the dial only goes up to 9. I reckon another draft of the script tweaking one or two pointless scenes or bits of dialogue would have made this much better. But that's hindsight, I suppose. Sticking with writing, let's take a look at the characters. Starting from the top, Mario. Out of every character to appear in a Mario game, Mario is perhaps the one with the least personality, but that's by design. Mario is whoever the player envisions him to be. He could be a stoic hero set on a mission to save the world, or he could just be a jolly plumber on a big adventure. That's great for a video game character, but not a movie protagonist. I imagine the writers had a hard time trying to give him any sort of personality, because Mario is like a glass of water, and if you add anything to a glass of water, it ceases to be a glass of water and people get mad at you for ruining their drink. As a result, Mario is pretty flat in terms of personality. He just has the basic protagonist traits of never quitting and sticking up for the little guy, with a dash of blue-collar worker sprinkled in. A generic personality for a generic character. Explains why they got Chris Pratt for the role. Pratt as Mario was perhaps everyone's biggest gripe for the casting, but honestly, he does a fine job. They go for the more Brooklyn-type accent, which I'm okay with. It's the accent Mario's always had outside of the games. Pratt does a decent job of voicing Mario, and I have to admit, it's perhaps one of the few roles I've ever seen him in where I don't feel like I was just watching Chris Pratt butt. If it were up to me, I probably would have cast someone else, but given that Bob Hoskins and Lou Albano weren't returning the calls, Pratt was probably the safest bet. I know a lot of people wanted Charles Martinet to voice Mario as he does the voice in the games, but I don't think that would have been a good idea. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy, but if Mario had that overly gleeful Italian accent the entire movie, I would have backwards long jumped into oncoming traffic after the first 5 minutes. Luigi gets to keep his personality of the cowardly, clumsy, but well-meaning younger brother. Not much to say otherwise really, given that he's in the film for about as long as I've ever truly been happy. Just a faithful rendition of the character from game to film. Charlie Day does a good job with the voice, but again, given the lack of screen time, he doesn't get much of a chance to shine. Princess Peach in this is depicted as fairly capable and competent. Oh yes, this princess doesn't just lounge about the castle making pastries all day, she actually gets shit done. I wouldn't go as far as to classify her as a girl boss, but she at least plays an important role in the story and isn't something to be rescued or for the hero to shag at the end. I know she has some kind of personality in the RPG Mario games, but having never played a Mario RPG, I'm in no position to comment on whether or not they've successfully translated that version of Peach into film. Anya Taylor-Joy does a fine job with the voice. Nothing award-worthy, but the lines were delivered well. Not got much to say about Toad other than he's there. He's not annoying and doesn't get in the way, but after taking Mario to the castle, he doesn't really do much else. Keegan-Michael Key seems to be doing his own thing with Toad's voice, but it's certainly a lot more pleasing to listen to than his voice in the games. Donkey Kong goes through your standard jerk becomes less of a jerk character arc and nothing more. It's hard to hear Seth Rogen's voice without just hearing Seth Rogen, so I personally found him voicing Donkey Kong to be a little jarring, but your mileage may vary. Rogen makes up for it though by having some of the funnier lines. But come on, I know who you really want to hear about. Famous YouTuber Jablinski Games and how he handles the big turtle. Bowser is done really well in this, probably the best character in the whole film. While he does have some sillier, goofy moments, they don't downplay his character or make him feel like less of a threat. I don't know whether they initially wrote Bowser as a sort of rock and roll Lord of Evil, or whether they rewrote him like that after casting Jack Black, but whatever the situation, he's powerful, menacing, and a solid antagonist while still having some moments of vulnerability. Black really did the role justice. The only real poor casting choice was Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong. He doesn't sound particularly old or cranky, which for an old ape named Cranky kinda misses the mark a bit. Personally, I think Gilbert Gottfried would have been a million times better for the role. But then again, I think half the characters would have sounded better if they were voiced by Gilbert Gottfried.
Holy fuck, is this wrong?
All in all, the characters are written fine and voiced well. My main problem with all the characters is that no real character development happens, and we pretty much know every character's motivation and personality by the end of the first act. Nobody really changes or grows as a character throughout the story. I'm obviously not expecting Godfather tier writing from the Mario movie, but it would have been nice for characters to show a little more depth than puddles in a car park. Moving on. Animated films recently have really been pushing the boat out when it comes to visuals. From Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio to Puss in Boots, the bar has been set real high in terms of quality. Given how many years Illumination has had to hone their craft, and the fact the last two Minion movies made roughly enough money to resurrect Christ, it'd be hard for Illumination to say they didn't have the talent or budget to make this film look good. Luckily for us, a lot of effort seems to have been put into the animation of this film. It's got a nice style, the characters look great, all the colours are vibrant and pleasing to look at, textures are fine, and locations and backgrounds are just crammed full of detail. There are a few scenes that have some unique cinematography too, such as the part where Luigi arrives in the Darklands and is chased by a bunch of those skeleton things. It's shot like a horror movie, close up with the monster moving in an unnerving manner. It's about as scary as that Freddy Krueger Power Glove scene, but I did hear a kid in the theatre sat behind me say, "I'm scared," so the director's doing something right. And I don't really have much else to comment on with the animation. Aside from a few moments here and there and the vibrant colour palette, it's pretty bog standard for Illumination. It looks nice, only goes so far when it comes to animation these days, especially with how high the bar's been set. It does everything right, but doesn't do anything new. So visuals get a ranking of fine. Good sound design is like the cleaner in a public toilet. You know they're doing their job well if you don't notice any mess, and that's exactly what we have here. What I will give the sound designers credit for is how well they've mixed sound effects from the games into the audio of the film. It's a nice attention to detail. Not every game sound blends in, and some of them can be a little jarring, but that's my only real gripe with it. The score is definitely one of the film's biggest strengths. Brian Taylor did a brilliant job of mixing several of the game's motifs with your standard cinematic orchestra to make something really magic. It uses just enough of the game's iconic tunes to be recognizable, but isn't afraid to do its own thing. Even if you're not interested in watching the film, I'd still recommend listening to the soundtrack. You would think then Illumination was actually starting to mature and depend less on licensed music. But then, out of nowhere before the first fight scene, that one Kill Bill song starts playing. God damn it, Illumination, have you no faith in your composers? I can hear the conversation. No, it's all right, assures the composer. Mario has hundreds of songs to choose from. We don't need to license anything. To which the out-of-touch producers reply, but then there'd be no pop culture references. That's what brings people to watch Minions. Quick, throw in some AC/DC. Take on me, Mr. Blue Sky. Every film has Mr. Blue Sky. Alright, fine, sighs the composer. But can we at least get the DK rap? I don't know what that is, but if we can license it, then yes. I don't really know what they were thinking. They pay for the rights to use like 6 songs, but they only use about 10 seconds from each? Would it not have just been cheaper to print an extra page of sheet music while you still had an orchestra at your disposal? The only song they were right to license was the DK rap from Donkey Kong 64. In summary, music and audio mixing, fine. I don't think I'd be content with this video if I didn't go over the references and Easter eggs in the film. I'm not going to go over every single one, but I do have some opinions on how they were implemented. It must have taken a lot of effort on the studio's behalf, as nearly every single major Mario game was referenced to some degree. The original arcade game, Mario 3, Yoshi's Island, Luigi's Mansion, Kart, 3D World, and more I probably didn't notice. Some of the more fun ones include King Bob-omb from Mario 64, and even Aluma from Mario Galaxy, which caught me off guard by constantly spouting existential dread and cutely begging for the sweet release of death. If that's not my spirit animal, I don't know what is. There's even several references to Punch-Out and a few other Nintendo games. On top of that, they even put in the original Super Mario Bros. Super Show rap. All of these, combined with the music as mentioned earlier, really goes to show that many folks working on this clearly cared about the source material. There are two sides to this coin, however. In trying to stay true to the games, the world building suffers greatly. Barely anything in the Mushroom Kingdom is explained, it's just ripped straight from the games. Why do all the storage boxes in this world have great big pixelated question marks on the side? Because they did in the games. Why are all the magic things that give you powers called power-ups? Because that's what they're called in the games. Why are there floating blocks and islands everywhere? That's just how it is, now shut up and look at the screen. I'm not asking that they stop and explain everything, but a little context or a line of exposition would go a long way. The biggest example of this is during the Fisher-Price Mad Max scene, where one of the Koopa Troopers yells "blue shell" and flies after a car before exploding. Like, he doesn't hit the fuel tank and isn't carrying a bomb, he just fucking explodes. About what you'd expect from a flying enemy made by the Japanese, but if you've never played Mario Kart, it makes no sense and comes out of nowhere. It feels like they've bitten off more than the audience can chew, constantly throwing new things at you without ever taking a second to establish any of it or bring it up again. If you've played at least one Mario game, you won't really question it, but to everyone else, all this unexplained stuff they keep pulling out of nowhere can be very off-putting and make you feel like it's trying to sell you the games rather than tell its own story. So the references are fine, but a little overbearing. Overall then, the Mario movie's a bit of a mixed bag. The components are there for something great, but a bit like me, when it's all put together, it's clear something went wrong along the way. If I had to blame anything, it'd definitely be the writing. Just one more draft of the script neatening things up would have easily put this film in the above average category. The thing is though, I don't really know who's to blame for it, because on the one hand you have Illumination, who would have been more than content in just releasing another boring, forgettable hour and a half of fart jokes, but then on the other hand you've got Nintendo, who'd have demanded recompense in the form of ritualistic suicide if anyone was daring enough to change anything about the characters or setting. Search up Bowser's Cup of Tea and Wreck-It Ralph if you want an idea of how picky they are. With all that being said, I was never bored watching this film. It kept up enough pace to keep my attention, and while it doesn't do much new, it does everything it should do right. By Illumination standards, this is pretty good. I've always enjoyed the Mario games, and so this was quite a nice throwback to some good childhood memories. Definitely a film for kids and Mario fans, and no one else really. It's by no means bad, but it's not good either. So, in summary, it's fine. That's it. It's fine. Bit of a disappointment really. After all this time in production and all the anticipation, it had a lot to live up to. But what more do you want? These things are difficult to make. I'm sure some people were really passionate to work on this, but there's only so much a man can do. And when you announce something so many people are looking forward to, no matter what you make, it'll never live up to their expectations. Like, it's evident that the team behind this film were genuinely passionate about what they were making, and the fact nobody really knows if it's good or not must really hurt. When all your hard work is met with a lukewarm fine, just another thing in a long list of other passable media, despite you going out of your way to defy people's expectations, it's a horrible feeling. But you know what's worse? Looking at the finished product and only then realizing it doesn't live up to your own expectations. When the thing you've put days, weeks of your life into turns out to be flawed or falls short, and the worst part is, nobody will hate you for it more than yourself. You see the issue in your work now, but had you been a little more attentive, you could have fixed it. Such a simple mistake that hindsight won't let you forget, nor anyone else who views your work. Why bother then? You're only ever going to disappoint yourself and your audience. Best quit while you're ahead before you make another shit film review that no one will watch. Put in all the effort and jokes you want. You're only going to hate whatever you make once you're done with it, and then you're just left standing alone on a stage yelling into an empty hall, realizing nobody gives a shit about your mediocre ambition to be a fucking online film reviewer. So yeah, it's fine. Just another film in an ever-growing list of films. If you were thinking about watching it, you probably have by now, and I've just wasted your time. Thanks for watching. Do the like and whatever. You know where the exit is.